Happy summer break.
Oh, speaking of summer break, these kids.
Yeah.
I have been looking for my under-eye concealer.
I thought you were going to say underwear.
I've been looking for my underwear.
Oh, my goodness.
I've been looking forever, and I'm like, I know that I haven't taken it anywhere. It's not in my extra purses or anything like that. It's nowhere. Searching, wasting so much time.
Oh my
So I'm like, finally.
So much valuable
So I'm like,
time.
surely my daughter has not taken my under-eye just taken it as her own.
Yeah.
And so I go back to her room, and yes,
There
there
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah,
there
there
it
it
is. I've been wasting my time looking for this.
Well, my 16-year-old has this concept that if someone hasn't put something away, then it must be okay for him to borrow it without asking.
You left it out. It's up for grabs.
I thought you didn't care about it because you left it out. And I'm like, you leave all of your things out. So you want me to take all those over? I mean, he's not even stealing my things, but like he was wearing his brother's shoes the other day, like a nice pair of shoes, like, you know, like the ones that are white that you don't get dirty so that they look really good. And he's just flippantly wearing them. And I was like, what are you doing? Aren't those chases? And he's just like, yeah, I'm just borrowing them. I said, did you ask him? He's like, no, because he left them out. Oh my goodness. I can't either. I just said I can't either, but I meant I can't even.
You can't even.
I can't even speak because it's summer break. Okay, last kid story, and we'll move on. So Eleanor's 7, and she's been watching animal shows on Netflix. And let's be honest, she's the baby by a long shot. I think she's watching Netflix, and maybe she's not. Maybe she's watching YouTube, and we shouldn't do that because there's lots of bad stuff out there. But anyway, she's watching these shows, and animals having surgery and animals in the wild and just all the things. And one animal was, according to the host on the show, getting down and dirty, which what they meant was like legitimately like rolling in the dirt. And so Eleanor's now adopted that phrase, and all throughout her day, just, Mom, you ready to get down and dirty? School ended, and I wasn't prepared. So it's probably time to get into content and not keep talking about the shenanigans that happened at my house. But the point of that story was school ended and I wasn't prepared. And so I think this week, let's talk about endings.
Oh, that's what you want to talk about.
That's what I want to talk about. Maybe necessary endings, maybe things that actually have to end. Like, it's really okay for school to have ended because next year everybody moves up to a new grade. Mm-hmm. All good. But endings are hard. So let's talk about it.
At the end of the school year, Lucy wrapped up track season, and so many of her teammates are on, they're seniors, they're graduating, they're moving on, they're going to college.
Yeah.
And she was just tearful, sitting in the kitchen, talking about it. And, you know, I'm so sorry. That's, you know, it's sad. It's hard to say goodbye to these things.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just had a conversation about, but all things end at some point.
Ouch, that sounds really painful. But right.
It's true. I mean, every
Right.
school year is going to end. You know, elementary school will end. High school will end.
Yeah.
And how we process and transition these endings, friendships, relationships,
Jobs.
yeah,
Yeah.
will determine of how we begin something. Because for every ending, there's a beginning.
Sure.
So how you transition out of your ending, whatever it is, informs how you begin whatever is new.
Oh, that's so good. I remember our founding pastor used to preach a message on that exact thing, like how you end will determine how you begin the next thing. And we don't necessarily think of that when we're talking about the school year or what have you. But man, if you leave a job kicking and screaming with a bad attitude, somehow that just follows you.
Yeah.
It just follows you, and you don't want that. I promise you.
I remember when I worked at Dairy Queen.
This is going to be this is going to help somebody.
I was promoted. So
I'm not surprised.
I was the daytime manager.
Really? Okay, good.
And it was it wasn't an easy transition for me because I still wanted to be friends with all of my coworkers. And it's like you had to leave those relationships to a certain extent because now I'm the person in charge telling you, this is when you have to be at work, or you were late today, or better not come in tomorrow or the next day because we can't rely on you.
Oh my goodness. How old were you?
19.
Okay. Old enough to be the daytime manager.
Yeah. And it's just like there was an ending to those relationships.
Sure.
Even in that transition of moving to daytime manager at the DQ.
I was listening mostly, but also kind of imagining you, because I do know that you can. I've been to a salad restaurant with you before where, why would you go to a salad restaurant and then they give you ice cream at the end? But we have one of those places in Tulsa. That's mind-boggling now that I think about it. But anyway, at the end you can just, swirl up that ice cream. Oh, yeah. And you can swirl up an ice cream cone like nobody's business. You can skills. You could go back to Dairy Queen if you needed to.
I could.
Have you had any endings that you would like to share about?
So many endings with my kids. I remember my youngest is now 8, just wrapped up 2nd grade, so it was 3 years ago. And I just felt like the Lord spoke to my heart and was like, you have 18 months. And that was basically the end of babyhood in my life, where I knew a new season was going to be beginning. He's like, you prepare for these 18 months because something is coming to an end here. And I knew that it meant that being a stay-at-home mom was ending and there were new things going to be happening. Just an ending here with Fran graduating high school. Yeah. That now letting him go and letting him move into the adult world, that there's so much that I have to bite my tongue about and just, you know what? He's got a boss that will talk to him if he's late or can't get himself out of bed in the morning or whatever it is.
Difficult.
And it is extremely difficult to not be. You've graduated. You're moving into adulthood, and my responsibility of nagging you, are you paying your bills, are you showing up to work on time, has ended. Like that's pretty much done.
Yeah.
So now can I don't know if I'm at the right stage for friend yet.
Sure.
But mentor of.
Something that you said made me think, if there's a young adult listening, still living in their parents' house and their parents have not yet pulled back, then save your money and move out.
Yeah.
Maybe the ending is on your side of it.
Yeah.
You have a relationship with Fran where you're able to kind of step back and allow him to live in your space. But I know a lot of parents that won't let go and drive their adult children crazy. But I would say move out.
Yeah. Which I've been, processing this for a year because Fran is an older graduate. He's already 19. And so last summer he was 18 and he moved out with another family in town. He's like, I want some more independence. I need some more freedom. I got to be me. I'm going to be an adult. I'm going to make my own mistakes.
We both have funny voices. Like you sometimes make fun of the voice that I use for everything, but I haven't heard that one too often. I'm going to be me and make my own mistakes. Okay.
But so last summer was sad for me.
Right.
Where I was really sad of, I lost my baby, no longer a baby, way taller than me. And has been out of diapers for a few years, so it's not, but I've lost my little buddy. It was just him and I for so long, and now he's gone.
I hope he hears this, little buddy.
And so I've been doing this for a year of being sad and like letting go. And so when it got to the time where he's graduating high school and actually released, I'm ready to see him go. I'm like, on your way.
Sure.
On your way.
Sure. I guess I have a story of an ending, maybe two stories, because as you saying, for a year, I've been dealing with this and been a little bit sad. I think you mentioned a moment ago that every time something ends, it could be hard. Sometimes it's exciting, but could be hard. So Brian changed jobs. Goodness, it's probably 4 years now. I just have been saying 3 years for so long. I don't know how long ago it was. A long time ago, Brian changed jobs. So he was in oil and gas, wildly successful, very, very good at what he did. And with that came a certain paycheck and a certain, I wouldn't say lifestyle because Brian's pretty frugal, and a certain feeling of importance maybe, maybe even an identity that we didn't recognize. So as a child, as a maybe 12, 13, 14-year-old, he felt called to ministry. And he never pursued that for one reason or another, never pursued that. Went to school, was really good at engineering type of things, math and science, and just thought, I bet this is what I'm called to do, to do this career and make money to fund the gospel. And that's what we did for a number of years. But when you make a good amount of money and you use it to fund the gospel, you also use it to fund yourself. You also use it for your mortgage, and you also use it for your car, and you get used to a certain level of living. Good, bad, or indifferent. And Brian would say, actually, I got used to living at a certain level. He never did, but I always did.
He never got too comfortable.
So what to us was out of the blue, to the Lord was not, when Whit approached Brian about coming on staff. And it was a long transition, but we realized we had to wrestle with the Lord because money or status or job was maybe an idol for us that we didn't even realize. We never would have said it was because we gave such a large percentage of our income away, but we knew a large percentage of that was staying with us, and we, our budget was aligned with that amount of money. Anyway, it was a lot harder to make a decision than we ever dreamt it would be. He didn't have any desire to work at the church, but it was where the Lord ended up eventually leading us, and it was a huge grieving process for us to set that down. And I remember telling Whit, we were all four at dinner talking about it. I was like crying, like, what if this doesn't work? Like we might be burning every bridge behind us, because oil and gas is a small community of people. Like, you might not even live in Tulsa where we live, but you all know each other. We might be burning bridges. Like, there's no looking back. And what if this doesn't work? And just trusting God to take that step. And we're living our best life on a much less salary, so be it. The joy that we have, the excitement we have, but it did not come without the cost of some real pain between then and where we are now. So, but jobs, although important, and raising kids, although important, one that I think maybe we should talk about that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable is, because we are in a church and we're pastors and we work at a church and volunteer at a church and attend a church, a lot of friendship comes along with that. And sometimes friendships end and you're still going to see those people. Sometimes you outgrow people.
What do you mean by that? I mean, how do you outgrow someone?
Maybe outgrow might be a mean word because it sounds like I think it's the right word. As your depth with the Lord increases, if your friend's depth with the Lord is not increasing, I do think you can outgrow a friendship. And it not be that you minimize that person, or not that you don't want to have a relationship with them, but it might just be that you're not going to be close like you once were. And that feels painful, but it happens in the church. I had a friend that walked with me very closely in the depth of my hardest days of depression, and was just such a mentor to me, and loved me and cared for me. And that season of friendship ended, and maybe she outgrew me. Maybe she moved on to the next person that needed her help. And her family has since left our church to go on and pursue some different things in ministry. No hard feelings, except for mine. Except for mine were heartbroken, because that I always have you as a lifeline. that well of wisdom and knowledge dried up, and she moved on to do something different. And endings are painful.
They are.
They're painful.
I've had experiences with, friends who decide, their kids are just pursuing different sports than my kids, or different activities, or whatever it might be, or, and it's hard when you have these like go-to conversations, these go-to people, and then all of a sudden they're like, too busy, sorry, can't, moving on.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that with every ending, you have to allow yourself a grieving process. Because if you stay in denial and say, with your friend, well,
let's go to lunch next week. And she says, call me. And you can just pretend in your mind this doesn't really have to end when you know in your heart it should.
Yeah.
And you keep trying to cling on and hold on to it. It turns unhealthy. I mean, I kind of chased her down for a little while.
There's endings to everything. There's so many different endings and they
like
happen
a funeral?
in a funeral. I mean, they happen in various different ways.
You just took that and went with it. Yes.
Yes.
People
and
die.
You can be in denial. And I think that, oftentimes the Lord is like, this has to end. And you can deny it all you want until he brings it to a spot and you're done. And then it's even more painful.
So, man, it would be better to listen to the Lord and to follow his leading and to end things at the right time than for him to end them for you.
Yeah.
We do that in parenting, and God's our Heavenly Father, where you give your kids some opportunities to make the right choice.
And then
you make it for them. It even happens as adults with the Lord. Yeah.
But I think with all of these endings, one thing that I've learned in my short life is, yes, it's very short. We have to learn how to grieve these endings. When your child goes off to college, when your child is moving out, to be able to grieve and say goodbye to what you've had so that you can embrace a new season with them. Because if you're holding on to your kids and just like, but I'm your mom, I'm your mom.
Yeah.
You never let them really move into adulthood. You might not agree with everything that they're doing as young adults. But
what do you think, Heather, is the root of those issues? Like, why did I have to grieve so much over Brian's job transition, or when my friend moved on in ministry to do something else? Or what's the root of those? Is it healthy or unhealthy? Combination?
Well, depending on what you're grieving, because I think that there's grief in all of it. But are you grieving the loss of identity? Are you grieving for a mother to be in denial that your child is growing up and pursuing a life that doesn't really involve you?
Yeah.
That they are making their own decisions without saying, hey, Mom, what do you think about this or that?
You know what, Heather? That's why I've always had a little bit of indigestion is the word I'm going to use. A little bit of indigestion over the Christian woman saying, my highest calling is motherhood. Because I do believe that motherhood is a very high calling. Mm-hmm. But my highest calling is follower of Christ, because at some point, if I do my job well during the season that I'm a mother, not that you outgrow that, but the season that I'm a mother with them in my care, they should launch and leave.
They should.
They should go on. And although I still mother them as their adult children, I should have 20 more years, 30 more years, 40 more years to do something for the Lord that doesn't directly involve raising them.
Well, I think your highest calling is to go and make disciples. And so with your children, there is the parenting aspect, but more importantly, as Christ followers, is to make those children disciples. Yeah. And you should be launching them. You should be saying to the kids, go.
Yeah.
That at some point in their life, they will
You know why
go.
it's so easier said than done? Because things like this happen. Like I don't think I've ever told this story on the podcast, so I will share this. The reason it's so hard is because different things like this happen all the way through raising kids. Like you get a kid that turns 16 and they have a car and they say to you, our whole family's going to go to Whit and Heather's house for dinner. And they say, can I drive my car and show Elliot my car? No, we don't need to pay for gas twice. What are you talking about? No, just ride with us. And then I'm like, oh, hold on, I'll ride in your car. We'll ride in your car. No, I don't want you guys to ride in my car. And I'm like, well, we're not going to pay for gas twice. Mom, it's not going to cost anything because I have a full tank of gas.
It's free.
Like, okay, hold on. You're going to spend, I gave him the benefit of the doubt for a second. He doesn't quite get this. I'm like, you're going to use gas to get over there. And then you're eventually going to have to put gas back in there. He's like, I have a full tank of gas. So because he wasn't going to drain the gas, it was free.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard to launch people, because you just go, they're not ready. They don't know everything. I've done my best, but I can't possibly. They need me.
What are they going to do without
They need me. They need me.
It's identity and control.
Yeah.
That identity is.
With my job transition, maybe identity and money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a
The
certain
love of
amount. I bet
money.
there's a certain amount of control in that as well. That
Sure.
I don't have to really mind my pennies.
I don't have to budget to a penny. You're right.
because I've got all of this money. I got dozens of dollars.
Right.
That I can control this. I can manipulate this however I want.
I think another one could be comfort, like just that you find comfort in that relationship. Maybe even a comfort zone. Maybe it's not even healthy. Like we haven't even talked about relationships that aren't even healthy. What
Yeah.
about a relationship that's not healthy, but you're so used to it?
Yeah.
Like I'm just comfortable with you.
They tell you all the things that you want to hear, and you just have a great time when you're with them.
Or an abusive relationship and they don't tell you all the nice things and they're really mean, but at least you have somebody.
Yeah. What about divorce? How do you How do you deal with that ending in a Christian community, especially when you didn't necessarily have a choice in the matter?
Sure.
That relationship ended because whoever you're with decided, I want to do something different. I'm done.
Maybe it's infidelity, or maybe it's just, I don't want to work on this anymore.
Yeah.
Which happens. Oh man, that's loss in a whole different realm than I was thinking, Heather, because with that loss often comes loss of friendships, because typically you would have some married, friends, loss of friendships, loss of community. Maybe you were in a couple small group at your church, but now you're only one.
Loss of partner and
Yeah.
doing life together, raising kids, or income. I mean, there's so many things that when you're in that situation, to grieve, to process.
Absolutely. And probably to get some counseling so that you grieve well, because I think there's a way to grieve that is beneficial and that moves you forward at the right time. I mean, you don't need to move forward right away, but I think there's a type of grief that lingers on forever if you don't know when it's time to turn the page and move past grief to asking the Lord to show you, glimmers of joy again, and to have a life. I have a lady that I know that got divorced. Oh man, it's probably been 8 years, and her ex-husband is remarried and has a new child and all the things. But if you saw her on any given day, she still looks downcast. So, maybe having someone help you grieve well if you know that you're not grieving well.
Yeah.
Because there is a grief that is beneficial. And then there's one that if you just do it forever, it's not going to help you. And I think if you're a believer, one of the things that you can be confident in is that you don't have to determine all these things on your own. You're following a leader that knows when it's time to end things, when it's time to grieve things, and he wants you to know. You aren't just out there on an island trying to figure things out. I love John 15, where it talks about how God, our Heavenly Father, is the vine and we're the branches. And I think that there's some lessons that could be taken from that for us to apply to relationships, to know how to handle things. I'm a fan of a book called Necessary Endings, and I heard a message on the book that comes from John 15, talking about when God prunes things. Someone planting something would prune, like if you had a rose bush. I guess if you are a rose bush grower, which I am not, are you?
A master gardener.
Are you a master gardener with roses, Heather?
No, I'm
You are a master gardener, but maybe not with roses. You do a lot of gardening. And you're a master.
Yeah.
Okay, master gardener. Anyway, I heard that sometimes when the buds come out on a rose bush that you need to go and prune some of them and cut some of them off before they even flower out, which sounds ridiculous. Like there's a bud, it's going to be a flower. Why would you do it? Well, the root system can't handle that many flowers. And so you're risking losing it all if you don't prune some things. I think in my life, I've had seasons where I wanted to be everything to everyone. And so if you approached me wanting some level of friendship with me, the answer is yes. And I'm going to go to lunch with you, and I'm going to make it happen, and I'm going to clear my calendar. And then I'm spiraling over in anxiety over on the other side because I can't get all my laundry done, and I can't do. But all these people need me or just want me.
Yeah.
And it feels really good. It feels so good.
Yeah.
But I've had to trim off some buds so my root system can handle it.
Yeah.
And so that I can have friendships that flower out in a really beautiful way.
Well, the same is true in vine branches, in grapes. When you're growing grapes, when the vine is getting started, you don't let any grapes grow. There's no fruit for the first couple of years because you need the maturity to be able to support those grapes.
That reminds me of Pete Scazzaro talking about the importance of silence and solitude. Like a person like me would rather fill every moment of my day talking to someone. And by talking to, I mean talking at, because they don't even have to talk back. I would just like to talk. But for me to be healthy and for me to grow in my walk with the Lord, I have to spend times of silence and solitude. It's kind of like you're talking about those grapes.
Well, I think as human beings that we tend to start to depend on people for things.
Sure.
Your spouse, you're what makes me happy. You're the source of my happiness, or your kids.
That's an incredible marriage. You're the source of my happiness.
Or your kids, you're the one that brings me so much love. You're supposed to love me and take care. I mean, I've known people that have had babies because they just wanted somebody to love.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because they thought they were going to be cute. I'm like, that was me. I thought they were going to be cute. And they weren't cute and they screamed. But yeah, just to have somebody. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And so we put our dependence on something else. And if you are a Christ follower, a lot of times the Lord's like, hold up, I'm supposed to be the one.
Yeah.
And then you get some pruning.
Right.
You can and you can either let him do it and you're like, okay, step back. I need to mature a little bit more because I'm depending on you for all my things.
And in the example of, I feel like I'm ping-ponging all over the place, but every time you say something, I think, yes, and it works in this example. It works in this example. Launching an older child, maybe it's not like, I just want them to love me, because we all know as they get older, for a little while, they pretend like they don't love you.
Yeah.
They do, but they pretend like they don't.
And for a little while, you might not like them.
Right. But I do think that as we're getting ready to launch older children, you're launching one, I have one just a couple of years out, I just think, I know how much more I know than he does. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even know what he doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver. I could help.
Yeah. You just ask me. I'll step in there.
Let me just tell you. You don't even have to ask. Let me just jump in and tell you. Because I am... Brian Cooper said to me the other day, which is kind of true, like I say words wrong occasionally, and I have a whole host of weaknesses. And he said to me the other day, he was laughing, and he's like, I am just now realizing some of the areas where you really are dumb, Mom. And it wasn't disrespectful or rude. We were all kind of laughing, but I was just thinking.
And Chase is over there thinking,
you're just now catching up. Yeah. That's exactly what's happening. But I'm sitting there thinking, he's right, and yet he's wrong. Like there's a whole host of things I know that he just doesn't know yet. Like I mean, I've been trying to prep him. If you ever get pulled over, make sure you have your hands on the steering wheel like this and you roll down your window and you don't reach for your insurance until they come over. And if you ever had a flat tire, let's talk about changing a flat tire. He's like, we've got insurance for that. No, there are things that, anyway, I just think as your children are growing up, sometimes it's not even so much as a parent that you want to be loved by them. It's you are the caretaker.
Well, I see it myself that I'm the caretaker. I can help you not get hurt.
Yeah.
I can help you not experience any pain. I can help you.
I want to do that
you just
so
have
bad.
a good and happy life.
Yeah.
Which in the long run is hurting them.
Yeah. It's so hurting them in the long run, but it sure doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
So the one final thing that we haven't talked about, we talked a little bit about John 15 and pruning when it almost seems unnecessary, like the flower's about to burst open and you're going to prune it anyway,
or the grapes
are right there. We're going to cut them all the way back to the ground. But there's also pruning that happens often, and that's when the branch is dead. You know the relationship is over and you're just holding on for dear life. It's like me calling that friend and just being like, let's go to lunch again.
I'm sorry, I'm busy for the rest of my life.
I am so busy forever. And just being unwilling to let go. And those are dead branches or relationships that you have to just cut off, or God will cut them off for you by that person being busy for the rest of their lives.
This is all very sad. Like we're talking about things ending and grieving and
kids moving out.
It's sad.
And
whatever, leaving us behind. Their sad and lonely lives.
Oh, my word.
It's really hard. But here's what I know that I have experienced is that when you have something end in your life, there is always a new beginning. Like a job ends, maybe you have a dream to start your own business.
Yeah.
Well, you oftentimes have to quit your job to have the time, energy, resources to start that new dream.
Sure.
Like you have to end things to be able to begin something new. When B started kindergarten and I knew that season was coming, it was like I knew that toddlerhood stage had to end so that I could experience some new things.
Like, what are you experiencing new?
Oh, just more freedom with my time to work and volunteer and do what I didn't ever have time for with 5 little kids.
Sure. You know, I think as you say that, it makes me think about my friendship, my girlfriend that moved on, that I was trying to hold on to her coattails. But anyway, as that moved on, I didn't realize this. And my life was somewhat compartmentalized. Like she was my friend that was walking through that with me. Mm-hmm. And then I have my small group and we're talking about something different. And I've been friends with you for a long time. I didn't realize until last season when we recorded the episode on depression, there were parts of my life hidden from you that I didn't even realize. But in the exit of the friendship, the one that I'd leaned on so heavily during my hardest part of depression, with her gone, I had to fill that void. And then I start opening up to you and to Brian and sharing myself with people. I'm still sad she's gone. Mm-hmm. But the closeness I have with you and with my spouse, some of the things that he didn't know that I felt, he could sense that I felt them, but the things we had not discussed.
But just because you were like, I've got this outlet with my friend that she's taking care of this for me, and so I don't need Brian, or I don't need to share this with anybody else because my friend is taking care of this for me.
So it was a necessary ending that I didn't choose for myself. She moved on. I was sad and felt like it was unfair and all of those things. But the new life that came out of it, because I chose the new life. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. You can have something end and you don't replace it with anything and you're just flailing and you're just sad forever. And that's not what we want for any of our listeners or for ourselves.
And there's a lot of times there's endings in our personal life, things that we're like, okay, I've got to make a change here, weight loss or health or whatever. But you just can't say, I'm not going to eat fast food anymore.
Right.
And move to saltines. It's like you have to replace that fast food with
I'm on a health journey.
Vegetables.
Just so you know, if you are on a health journey, don't replace fast food with saltines because that's also not going to help you. But carry on with your point.
But you can't just, it's not enough to determine, I'm going to quit eating Chick-fil-A.
Right.
There, you have to be able to replace it with something. You can't just say, listen, this friend that I have enjoyed her company so much, but I'm realizing that I don't like the way I treat my husband when I'm with her, or when I go home to my husband after we've been out, and then I'm mean to my husband.
Wow. Who is this friend? Let's cut her out.
That you have to be able to replace her with somebody else. Who's somebody? Right. How do you then have a friend who will encourage you in your marriage to love and honor your husband instead of spending 2 hours drinking coffee and tearing your husbands apart?
That's right. You know, Heather, sometimes there's we're ending something and we know that we have to replace it with something else, but we don't know how good it could be.
Yeah.
You know, I think of our producer that produces our podcast that just had a job transition, and he was telling us, I didn't know the new dreams in my heart and the ideas and the excitement I would feel until I sat down.
You've got to let go
of the job,
the dead branch.
Yeah,
it's not producing any fruit.
He would say that his job had become a dead branch.
Yeah.
But out of loyalty and out of
love for the team,
loyalty, comfort, comfort zone. But I've been here so long. But this is what I'm used to. But this is a secure income. All those things. But man, he's now living the dream full of excitement and energy. New beginnings are good. They're good. So good.
I mean, think about it. Fran is graduated high school. Yeah. So as sad as I am that he is his own adult, think about what is to come.
Oh, man.
Just career, job opportunities. He's so talented and creative. I can't wait to see what he does with those gifts that he has, but marriage could be on the horizon for him, and then grandkids. I'm not in a hurry for grandkids or any of that, but that is all possible, and to enjoy it for him and with him when I let go of my kid.
Yeah, man, so encouraging. Your mother-in-law, one time I heard her say that she was committed to just thoroughly enjoying each season. I want to be that way. Yeah. I want to be just excited about each season. I've learned that watching Fran graduate the reality is set in to me that I've got 2 years with Cooper. So when I'm watching a game, and I think this is the 10th game I've been at this week, I'm trying to just soak it all in, enjoy the season. It will end, and a new one will be on the horizon. Enjoy where you're at. Don't be afraid to let go.
Yeah.
Be excited for the future. God always has something ahead of you that's good. He always does.
Yeah.
So, oh man, if you're excited like I am, you should send us a question.
Oh yeah, we are taking questions. You can call us. I don't remember.
No, we're not going to have them call anymore.
No, they can't call.
They can.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, I loved that. They can call, but what I've learned is that people text more than call.
True.
And they can remember a 5-digit number versus a long phone number. So we can make this super easy. They can text us anonymously their questions. Okay. Want to tell them how?
Yes. Text us at the number 23101.
Yes.
And text the word
the words
3 life in motion.
Yeah.
And then you'll get a link to send us your question. And it's so easy. Even our international listeners can participate.
Is that true? Our international listeners might have to leave us a voicemail. I'm not positive.
I hope that works for them to text.
Oh, man. If it doesn't, we're going to drop the phone number in the show notes, so we've got you taken care of too. But seriously, we'd love to know, what do you wish we would talk about? What are the things that people don't talk about that you'd like us to talk about? And we will surface those in a Q&A at the end of the season. Or maybe if it's a good enough topic, we might just do season 3 all on your question. Yeah. Probably not, but maybe. Maybe. So anyway, thanks so much. If you've enjoyed today, subscribe to Life in Motion, and we will see you next time. Thanks.